Oh, come on. We're so excited. You can do better than that. If it was Belky's, you'd all be going, yay! I'm just so delighted to be here. And as a side note, I just, for those of you who may not remember, my mother was a former president of the Miami Women's Club right here. So, as you know, this is a very special place. And Rebecca, I mean, she's amazing, right? Somebody said earlier, says, she's a force to reckon with. And you are, and thank God for that. Thank you, Rebecca, for everything that you and Wings do. And I also want to give a shout out again also to Dr. Dorothy Mindengoff. Let me just tell you, you may not know this, she's been a pioneer in so many areas, including human trafficking. And I want to thank you for your passion and your commitment to always protecting the most vulnerable in our community. Thank you, Dorothy. And last but not least, before I dig into the wonderful introduction for this incredible woman I was sitting next to, and I want to introduce three people from my office, which is really your office, because they do incredible work every day. So Sandra Lawrence is the head of all our victim services. Get up. Don't be lazy today. April, next to her, April deals with all of our sexual assault victims. And Mari Jimenez gave up some procedure with her hip today to be here. She is the head of all of our domestic violence. Every day, these three women do incredible work, God's work. They're angels on earth. And so thank you. I want to thank you also, as I always do, for everything you do. So let me just tell you a little bit about what it was like when I first established the first prosecutorial unit in Florida devoted to addressing domestic violence. And I did so because the issue was still widely regarded as a family issue. In those days, everyone was told, the victims would call police would go out, and we'll go take care of it. I'm going to give you one example that really so a judge, I had a case, it was in front of a judge, God bless him, he's since passed. That didn't come out right. I mean, I won't mention him because he's since passed, but God bless him. And I was in front of him, and I had a victim who was just absolutely terrified to go to court, as many of them are, because the abuser's there. He had shot at her, and so he was charged with second-degree murder. When we got up, and you stay with it, stay steady, don't look at him, look at me, look at the judge, everything's going to be fine. The judge looks at us and goes, wait a second, let me see if I understand this right. So the husband shot at his wife, and he missed. So why are we here? And he looked at her, and we all looked at him in absolute befuddlement. And he said, you know what? You should consider yourself lucky, lady, that he missed. And so that was the beginning of my personal journey as a young lawyer and a young prosecutor to really try to understand why we were so in the dark ages about the victimology of domestic violence and how the judiciary and the system as a whole treated them. So comes along brilliant women like our speaker today, Christy Martin. She understands how important these attitudinal, structural, society philosophies have changed. Christy is a true American pioneer whose life embodies resilience, courage, and an unbreakable will to rise. And over a career spanning more than 2 decades, she shattered barriers in professional boxing, becoming the first woman to bring mainstream visibility to the sport and becoming one of the most celebrated female fighters in history. Yeah, incredible. But that fighting spirit is what took her forward during a very difficult time. In 2020, she became the first female boxer who was inducted into the Hall of Fame, but her greatest victory was not won in the boxing ring, but in her survival of years of domestic violence that nearly cost her life. In 2010, Christy almost died after her ex-husband and former coach, Jim Martin, attempted to murder her, stabbing her 3 times and shooting her once after she tried to leave him. She survived that horrible attack and then later testified against him. In 2012, Jim was found guilty of attempted second-degree murder and was sentenced to 25 years in prison. She truly understands the depth of horror and the pain of domestic violence. Her survival is a testament to her extraordinary strength, and she has since transformed her experience into a mission advocating for victims, educating communities, and using her voice to save lives. Her story, told through a major biographical film released in 2025 called Christy, and her book titled Fighting for Survival, continues to inspire millions. Today, Christy Martin stands not only as a champion athlete, but as a champion for others. Her journey reminds us that bravery is not the absence of fear, but the decision to rise anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, this wonderful champion, please give her a round of applause. Come up, Christy. Thank
you. Yeah, wow. And wait till you see the whole movie and read the book. Then you will really say, wow. So I came to know Christy some 3.5 years ago when her book was first released. And ironically, the author of the book, Ron Burgess, went to college with Christy Hefner, Hugh Hefner's daughter, who happens to be a Wings supporter. And Christy Hefner called me and said, and mind you, I'm not a boxing person, so outside of maybe Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali could not name a boxer. Same with tennis, nothing against it. But she tells me the story, and I was just flabbergasted, couldn't believe it. So reached out to Christy Martin and asked if she would come to Chicago for a book signing. And we had a packed house, and a reporter from Chicago came to do the interview. And I think, and you're going to answer this for sure. First, you need to know we did not script any questions. This is simply a conversation, and you're welcome to be a part of that conversation. Raise your hand and jump up and interject any questions you want throughout our discussion. But really to have you hear her story, when you think of someone with your strength, and what people questioned was, if she's so good in the boxing ring, how could she have gone through that at home? So tell us about that.
So first of all, it's a great honor to be here. I'm always happy to be back in Florida and always happy to be part of a Wings event. So you're right. So many times people would say, how did this happen to you? You're so physically strong. You're a boxing champion. How did this happen? Well, it happens gradually. And you know, the isolation, the every time something positive. I was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and this guy wanted to tell me how it was because of him that I was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, not because of a great fight that I had had. Everything positive that happened, it was mental, always emotionally, mentally beating me down. Not so much physical, just every now and then something physical would happen. But you just get so far down the rabbit hole, as I say, that you don't even realize that you're going. It's just gradually. And you start looking around and you're like, oh, that friend's gone. Oh, that friend's gone. Where's my family? You know, they've isolated you from everybody. So they control what's happening, what you're thinking, what you're saying. He would tell me who to talk to, what to say to that person. He controlled every aspect of my life. And I didn't realize it until I was so far down, I didn't know how to get out.
So tell the audience, I know your story. I've seen the movie 5 times, and you will too. How did you get there? How did you get from the small town in West Virginia that doesn't have a stoplight to that moment?
So I entered into a tough man contest while I was in college. I do have a degree in education. But while I was in college, I wanted to do this boxing event. No women had ever done that before, but this was the first year they allowed women. I did. And then it just grew. And then I got a call from a promoter in Bristol, Tennessee that says, come down, I have a trainer that wants to train you. I'll put you on my fight cards. And I went to the gym, knew right away this guy did not want to train me. He did not want a woman in his gym. My mother kind of encouraged me / forced me to stay. And I did. And I just started to realize that maybe boxing was what it was going to be for me for the rest of my life. And I just, kept growing little by little. I moved to Florida. Some trainer saw me and said, I'm going to take you to Don King. Now remember, I'm a coal miner's daughter from southern West Virginia, town of 700 people. Of course this guy's going to take me to Don King. But he did. A few months passed, and I get a call, hey, Don King will see you. We jumped in the car and drove down here to South Florida to see and meet Don King and sign with him as my promoter. So it was just that led to fighting under Mike Tyson, fighting at Madison Square Garden, fighting in Las Vegas. But the whole time that all these awesome things are happening in front of the camera, behind the camera, in front of the camera, I felt like I was on top of the world. I was on top of the world. Behind the camera, the world was on top of me. It was just like I said, everything positive that would come along, he would shoot it down. You would always be negative. And I mean, you'll see in the movie, we went as far as he wanted to spar with me, really just to show me that he could knock me out and kind of bring me down. But I was getting a lot of really awesome things happening, so I'm feeling proud and happy. But he always wanted to bring me back down. And I think that sometimes this happens to us and we don't realize it. We don't see it until it's too late. Until I was laying on the floor. He had told me, let me go back. He had told me from before I even married him that if ever you leave me, I will kill you. I was like 22 years old. And I kind of thought it was a joke. Laughed. A few years pass, I marry him. A few years pass. He's continuing to tell me, if you leave me, I will kill you. About halfway through the 20-year marriage, I started thinking, maybe. But the day that I left, I knew that he would kill me. And he thought he killed me. But God has a bigger plan. And that's why we're here today.
That is why we're here today. I had the opportunity, Christy came to Chicago not long. First of all, I got to go to the Hollywood premiere of the movie with Christy and Sydney Sweeney. And Sydney and Christy did a meet and greet with one of our board members and her daughters who paid $21,000 on our live auction for that opportunity. And I would tell you, Hollywood premieres are crazy. But both Christy and Sydney were very gracious, and the person who purchased the package is a survivor herself. 17 years of no hitting, emotional abuse, gaslighting, and this woman finally said she'd had enough, and she said that was the only time in her life she ever thought she was going to be killed. And she brought her teenage daughters to see the film in Hollywood, and because they had grown up seeing this non-physical, awful abuse that their mother endured. The hardest one that I saw, I sat next to Christy at a showing in Chicago. And when it gets to the part in the movie where he attacks you with the knife first, and then paces back and forth and thinks that you're gone, and you're not, so he gets your gun and shoots you with it. And afterwards, we left the theater, and I asked you, how do you relive that? That it was hard for me to watch it, and I was sitting next to you, and you lived it. Tell us about that moment. So what happened, I'll tell you, he thought she was dead, so he went and got in the shower to clean off the blood off of him, and she got up off the floor and fled. But tell them about what you talk about in the book and in the movie, about knowing that he was going to kill you and what changed your moment in that minute on your bedroom floor.
So, as I said, by this day, I knew that he was going to kill me. But I went back anyway because this is not what we want to tell other people to do, but this is what I did. I was to the point that I had to either live through or die with whatever was going to happen. He came into the bedroom and told me that he had something to show me. That's when he started to stab me. Then as we went along, we kind of fought back and forth. And I had really surrendered. I was ready to die. But as he beat my head into the dresser, can I say it? I told him, motherfucker, you cannot kill me. And I meant it just like the sun came up this morning. And it all changed. It all changed. He would pace in and out to see if I was dead. And I thought, he's pretty certain I was dead. But then I came back up and I started telling him, he shouldn't do this to my mom and dad. They've been good to you. Don't let me die. And then I realized he's going to kill me. So he took my gun. He stood at my feet, and he shot me. He missed my heart by 3 inches with my own pink 9mm. And I just prayed to God, and I feel like that I was looking right in God's eyes and said, please show me some way out. And it was almost immediately I heard the shower water turn on. And I said, this is God telling me now is the time, Christy. So I was able to get up. I was holding pressure on the shot wound, the gunshot wound, because every time before I tried to get up, blood would start to squirt out of all these holes, and it would scare me. So I would lay back down. He had punctured my lungs, so I could hear the gurgling. That also scared me. But it also told me that you're limited on your time here. You have to get out. So I was able to get up. I went to my car. I picked up the car keys. I was going to drive myself to the hospital. And I picked up the car keys, got to the car, and realized I had the wrong car keys. So my choice now is to go back in the house to try to get the right car keys, or I just went out of my neighborhood and into the middle of the road to get somebody to take me. It's at night. So the first car came by me. He passed. I'm like, the next car, there's no way I'm letting this car go by. And thank God, my angel, Rick Cole, picked me up and took me to the hospital. I had taken the gun with me. I handed him the gun. I got in his back seat, and I told him, I'm sorry, sir, but I'm bleeding all over your back seat, but please don't let me die. And he, got me to the hospital. They stitched me up a little bit. They got me comfortable, and they air flighted me to the trauma hospital, where they were able to stitch up my leg. He had cut my calf almost completely from my leg. They left the bullet in me. But God is good, and I'm here, and I made a deal with God from my hospital bed that if you'll let me live, I'm going to help one person before I leave this earth. And then the arrogant me kicked in and said, no. You're going to help one person every day before you leave this earth. And so that's what I try to do, is help one person every day before I leave.
So, and you have, I think, held true to that, especially putting yourself out there. Along with the book, there's a really well done documentary, Netflix. But then Christy called me in January of last year and said, they're making a movie about my life. And I said, of course they are, and I know that. And she said about Sydney Sweeney playing her part, and I said, as she should. And if you watch that trailer and you know what Sydney Sweeney looks like, that doesn't look like Sydney Sweeney. So you were a part of the whole process of putting this film together, and it is very powerful. Tell us what that was like for you, to work with Sydney Sweeney, to work with a production crew in Hollywood, obviously culminating in the very chaotic premiere that it was. But just, you keep telling your story so that others will hear it and will reach out for help. So tell us about that.
It was unbelievable. Again, I'm from this small town in southern West Virginia. The first day I was on the set, they filmed in Charlotte, North Carolina, of all places. I'm like, really? Can't we go to the beach somewhere? But all these trucks and all these people were like lined up, and I was just in awe. I was like, oh my goodness, we're on a movie set. This is really cool. And then it hit me. No, we're on a movie set about your life. So it was like, wow, and then it was a bigger wow. But to be involved and to get to see how the movie part works was interesting. Those people are interesting. Hollywood is everything that you hear about Hollywood. I'd rather not be involved. But it was fun. It was fun to be there, and the relationships that I made with Sydney Sweeney, who is willing to help with domestic violence in any way that she can, to bring the awareness to people. I think with American Eagle, they did a certain gene for a little while with a patch on it that gave back. Ben Foster, who played Jim Martin, is a great guy. I mean, he nailed that part, and it was scary. I stayed away from the entire time that movie was filming. I would not be in the same area with them. The minute they called rap for Ben, I came out and gave him a hug, even though he was still in character. It was a strange moment, but it was a powerful moment, and that he is my friend for life. He wants to help any way he can with domestic violence awareness. He's also been in some relationships that have history. But just to be involved with a movie made about my life, again, I'm a coal miner's daughter from a little town, and it's really unbelievable. But what I think this movie will do and is doing, it's bringing awareness to domestic violence. It's bringing awareness to sexuality. There's a little bit in there about drug addiction, but overall it's about the ultimate underdog. I mean, I'm just a small town girl that kind of made it in the boxing world, but I made it when I got up off the floor that night. That's when I really made it. And if I can do it, anybody can. We just have to get the story out there, whether it's about me or anyone else. It's the story. We just have to make more people aware, and hopefully they can just gain strength that they'll make that move to get out of the relationship they're in. As we know, it takes 7 times to leave before you're actually going to leave. And I left a couple times until I finally left.
Any questions? Chrissy.
Was there a moment of clarity where, like, the first time you all suddenly realized, I gotta get out of here? Do you remember that moment of clarity where you realized that it had been built up to this kind of abuse?
Even though I had tried a few years earlier, I actually wrote up a contract and asked him, look, I'll take all of the financial responsibilities, everything. Will you just sign this contract and leave so I can have a life? That didn't go over well. That was a physical moment. But the day that I decided to leave, again, like I said, I really had surrendered to, if I live, it's okay, and if I die, it's okay. But yes, that moment came that I'm done, and I'm going to deal with whatever happens. But I don't want people to have to get to that point. I don't want people to have to be where they're surrendering. No, it shouldn't be about surrender. It should be about strength. No, I now have the strength and the courage to get out.
How you doing? Victor Williams, Quest for Freedom. So my question to you is that most people who experience trauma, it never goes away. So how do you manage your life when you're triggered, or when things are happening? How do you manage that? And how did you get to the point of managing?
Thank you. This little guy helps me more than anybody can imagine.
That's the answer, Champ.
Champ is a big answer. He's 3. This happened to me 15 years ago, 2010. I breathe deep. It's probably been a minute before I saw this. It's been a minute before I got this great introduction. So I hadn't really thought or heard someone else talk about what happened to me. So it does have a different feeling. I just take some deep breaths and I pray to God to give me the strength to get back up here and change someone else's life. I might not ever get better, but if I can help you get better, that's important to me.
Champ's like, are we done?
I must be interested in if you did reach out, what the reaction response was from either the law enforcement community or the safety and health services community. Were you able to access any of those?
So because I was this boxer promoted by Don King, fighting on some big cards, I didn't reach out. I just didn't. I was afraid to, because I didn't know how it was going to make him affect me, what he would do to me if I reached out for help. So,
But you did reach out to your mother.
I did. I did try to tell my mother, and that was in August before he shot me in November. I tried to tell my mother that he was videotaping everything that was going on in the house. I was in a bad situation, and I did ask my mother for help, and she thought I was crazy. So parents, please listen to your children. And if their child comes to you, this is where sexuality plays a big role too, with your children, with your friends, with somebody in your family. So what if they're gay? They were gay yesterday and you loved them. Why don't you love them today? Just because you know they're gay, they're the same person. Support your children. Love your children. Be open. Let them feel comfortable to come talk to you about if it's sexuality or domestic violence. I mean, I didn't have a bruise, so I do sometimes feel like if I would have had bruises, I could have gone to my dad and explained to them, this is what he did to me. But it's hard for somebody, especially like in West Virginia, they don't know about it. They're older, and to explain emotional and mental and isolation, it's just the way it is. No, it isn't.
Yes.
Physically, are you fully recovered?
Yes, ma'am, I think so. I actually fought again 6 months after being shot and stabbed. And when I fought, I broke my hand. They took me to Cedars-Sinai in LA, supposedly the best hospital in the country. When they were fixing my hand, I had a stroke. So in 6 months, God put a lot on me, and he's not going to put more on you than you can handle, but he thinks I'm a lot stronger than I am. A lot of stuff happened in 6 months, but I'm pretty good, other than the stroke hurt me just a little bit. But from the attack, physically, I'm good. Mentally, I think it'll always be a work.
Christy's also supporting our work around traumatic brain injury. There's some flyers around. We are in the process of finalizing a traumatic brain injury toolkit that we are licensing and giving to select organizations, but we're starting with University of Miami Health here in Miami to launch our hospital program, but also the program is designed, traumatic brain injury has its own things that go with it, memory loss being the worst, causing people to forget to go to court, which means they might lose their children. So we've designed a very great program for DV programs to use with their local hospitals around the country, and Christy is helping us to promote that. We're just getting started on that work as well. We are on the hour. I would like to recognize your time. Thank you for being here today. Speaking of children, I was remiss in thanking my sons, Ben and Luke, and my soon-to-be daughter-in-law, Janeth, for coming and helping and volunteering today to help us put this on, and my board member, Julie Heron, who joined us here today as well, and all of our members of our Leadership Council. You have QR codes on your table. If you want to get more involved, you can scan that QR code. My admin will get that email from you, and we can add you to our distribution list. We'd love to have you get involved in any way that works for you. We're going to continue to grow our partnerships like we have with Mujer. That's only going to get bigger, and we're going to collectively all help more survivors. And I will tell you, the Christy movie did help. One young woman in her late 20s called me after seeing the movie. She was volunteering at the screenings, and she called me and told me about the horribly abusive, emotionally abusive relationship she was in, and we were helping her to get out, and it was because of Christy. So you're on your way. Thank you.
Thank you. Just from when we started to open up for questions, 148 people were physically assaulted by a domestic violence partner. 148 just from while we were talking here.
We got a lot of work to do. Let's get doing it. Thank you for being here.